Monday, October 26th. It is 9:30 a.m. If you're watching this something different, you're wrong. We're right. And this is the Public Safety Committee. With the approval of the committee, we will consent items 4, 12, and we have a letter from Mr. Labarge that item number 15 has been resolved satisfactorily. So we will take item number 15 as a consent and receive and file it. And then also on item number 3, there is a recommended change, and with that minor change, unless someone wants to call it, and that would be that LAPD report recommendation that the CIA position be included in the department's personnel authority, recommendation 3B. However, the department will amend this recommendation to say as follows: 3B, approve continuing resolution authority for one existing crime and intelligence analyst 2 position in the LAPD for 6 months, July 1st, 2009 through December 31st. There's no objection to that. We'll consent that item with that change. Okay. All right. And did you have...
I would also, Mr. Chair, the items that have been supplied to the department by the Police Foundation, do we need to discuss those, or can we put those on? I think
there was just one question. We can just add this into that at this point if you want. That was 9, 10, 11, as I recall. Is that what they were? Yeah, 9, 10, 11.
12.
We just dispensed with 12, so.
Also 13, 14.
13 and 16 are going to be heard together because they relate to each other. On the issue defibrillators. Well, actually, I'm sorry, you're right. 13 is the other.
It was just the unit paid for by the foundation.
Yeah, that's the police defibrillators. Okay. 13 would be fine. We'll consent 13. Okay. And then...
John White, City Clerk, you disapprove 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13?
9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. That's correct.
Okay. And then 14 and 15? 14 and 15 was the letter from Mr. Labarge.
Yeah, we did 15 already, and 14 would also be included in that then also.
Thank you.
Great. Right.
And we thank the Police Foundation for their generosity.
And the only question on those, I would like to see in the future that we ask on these donations that the police department identify how they will maintain any gifts that require maintenance in the future. So on future donations, we should be asking those questions, and either the department saying we'll tear that responsibility, or we'll have a community group help us on that, one or the other, okay? Right, with that, we'll go ahead and approve those then. And that takes us back to, let's take item 16 up front. We have a whole bunch of fire chiefs here, and I want them to go back to work. So,
Item 16, Fire Department and the Information Technology Agency to present verbal reports relative to the maintenance of defibrillators.
Oh, well, all right. Good morning.
Morning. Good morning. Don Frazier with the Fire Department. The department operates approximately 270 defibrillators on its paramedic ambulances and also on fire companies. In the past, ITA has provided all maintenance and annual testing for that equipment. ITA has notified the fire department that they no longer have the staff to provide that service, and so they have notified us that they will be discontinuing that service. This is vital equipment for the fire department. It's equipment that we need to have available to us and serviced on a regular basis, and also available on a 24-hour basis. And so the fire department finds this unacceptable.
Yeah, I think we all do. ITA?
Yes, Mark Wolf with ITA. ITA has 118 staff of communication electricians, and this is the classification that supports the defibrillators as well. The majority of the 118 positions, 74% of those, are supporting public safety communications. ITA has had as high as 25 vacancies at one time over the past 3 years due to managed hiring in this classification. We had 8 of the vacancies deleted in this year's budget. We have another 12 positions for this classification that are currently vacant, and we have 37 of these 118 positions that are eligible for ERIF. So we recognize that this is an important function for the Los Angeles Fire Department. Our concern is being able to have trained staff that are being able to support this function. We currently, 12 months ago, we had 2 positions dedicated to supporting defibrillator maintenance. Those 2 positions retired over the past 12 months, and in recognition before they retired, we cross-trained 2 positions that currently are on board. Because of our staffing levels and vacancies, we actually only have 1 person dedicated 50% of their time to this function. And it's not adequate for supporting the fire department's needs for defibrillators. So our concern is being able to have adequate resources and somebody with the trained knowledge, because you have to have the proper training to be able to do the maintenance and support on this type of equipment. We have, over the last 6 months, looked at different options for providing this service, including using an outside provider. And we have recognized that it is more costly to utilize an outside provider than do it in-house, but it still doesn't get to the heart of our issue of being concerned that we'll have the adequate skill set and personnel to be able to perform this function. What we would like to ask the committee for your consideration is to actually defer this item for 1 week to give us an opportunity to work further with the fire department and the CAO's office to see how we can come up with a positive resolution for this item.
CAO? Anyone from CAO's office have any comments?
Ed Rose with the CAO's office. We could certainly sit down with both fire and ITA to address this issue. We haven't looked at it as of yet.
Okay. Were there any requests from ITA for unfreezes of positions that were, so they would be able to fill those positions? Or
That I don't know specifically, since this budget is under my group, but we can certainly take a look to see if there was anything pending.
Yeah, the problem is I can't imagine us waiting to do this stuff. I mean, this is life safety. This is basic life safety. And we shouldn't even be sitting here talking about this today. I can't believe that ITA just sends a department memo over and not tell the council you've got a problem, or the CAO that you've got a problem, so we can move money as necessary. It's just, this is unacceptable behavior. I mean, these are people's lives at stake that you're dealing with here. This is not an issue of budget. It's not an issue, departmental issue. This is life safety at its very basic. Other than the fire department, who maintains those that are in City Hall and other public buildings? Do you?
Our understanding is that the General Services Department maintains the defibrillators in the actual buildings that are city facilities. But one point of differentiation is our understanding, and it would be best to have General Services speak to this, is there's 2 types of equipment. One where the vendor, an actual vendor under maintenance, does all the work, the support work, if a defibrillator requires repair. And I think that's the case with the equipment that's in the buildings, where somebody just goes and tests it to make sure that the battery's operational. If it's not functioning properly, then it's sent out for repair work by the vendor. That is different than the defibrillators that we maintain for the paramedics. Those devices we actually do equipment repairs on in-house. In addition, part of the work that the ITA staff does today also includes the defibrillators that are in the fire trucks. Those are similar to the ones that are in the building, where all we do is test it to make sure it's operational periodically, and when it is, if it is not operational, then we send it out to the vendor because it's still under contract. So those are the 2 scenarios in terms of the type of repair. And if I could also clarify one point, Councilman, we do understand that this is a critical service for the fire department, and our communication with the fire department up to this point has been talking about transitioning this to another way of having this service provided. We have not discontinued support for the defibrillators. We are waiting until we wouldn't transition the service and stop doing it until there is someone else in place to be able to perform that function, because we do know that it's an important service.
But your memo to them was you're going to stop doing it.
The memo that we did send to the fire department was indicating that it is our desire to transition this over to the fire department, and we've identified an outside contractor that could perform this function, and we provided a cost estimate.
Mr. Zine?
I'll be very candid, and I'm going to tell it like it is. You folks are throwing everything away and getting everything off the back of ITA. The alarms, the cable television operation, and the excuse is we don't have the funds. Now it's the defibrillators. How many assistant general managers do you have?
We have 4 assistant general managers.
And how much staff do you have total?
We have currently, I want to say the number is 680 authorized positions.
I suggest you go back and you talk to your general manager that I, for one, am tired of hearing ITA throwing in all the equipment that they're supposed to maintain and giving to somebody else. Because whether it's the alarm systems or the cable television or whatever the case may be, ITA's kind of like relinquish it. They've got 680 positions, 4 assistant general managers, plus the general manager. That's 5 people. Other general managers have told me that ITA has more general managers than these other organizations that are working within their budgets. It seems that ITA's attitude is, we don't have the funds, we're not going to do this, and we're going to cut here, cut there. And the most vital service to provide to the public, the defibrillators, you're going to give it to a vendor, so the fire department's going to pay out of their budget, which they're already over budget. So I think you folks need to go back and restructure your operation and find out if you need 4 assistant general managers when you're relinquishing responsibility of activities that you've been dealing with. And it really frustrates me that this is just one more layer on top of the other layers that have come to my attention, that ITA is relinquishing this and relinquishing that. So you folks are relinquishing everything, but you're not relinquishing general managers, you're not restructuring, and we're going to sit here and say, okay, the public safety, the public good is going to go secondary? I don't think so. So I am really frustrated and very angry with the way you folks are structuring your organization and the way you're conducting it on the backs of people, whether it be the alarms, whether it be the cable, whether it be the defibrillators, and I don't know what else is in line. But I, for one, am not pleased with it at all. So I wish you'd take that back to your general manager.
I will do that.
Ms. Perry?
I just want to make a suggestion that I really hope you do come back with a solution, and in the time that we're in where we're having to lay people off and some people are furloughed, instead of outsourcing work, need to be a little more creative, and maybe the managers can assume responsibilities that in the past they might not have had to, but because you don't have the subordinate level that you're used to having, then that means you have to do the work. You know, sometimes when I have an event, you know, I get out there and serve the food too, and I'll do the sign-up sheets and, you know, get wheelchairs for people to get to their chairs, and we're just in bad times. So, you know, everybody's got to pitch in, because the people who are left in the department still able to work full-time should be working harder, not less, and you know, be grateful that they're able to be there, because not everybody gets to stay there full-time. So I'm hoping that you come back with a solution that includes taking what you've got and working within your budget and keeping it in-house and figuring out how some people can just work harder, but not working overtime, you know. And I've had anecdotal information that, you know, there are people who are not as busy as they should be. So, you know, maybe you can take a look around the department around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, see who needs more work, and then consolidate those people and make them take on these responsibilities so we can keep it in-house and, you know, keep people working at full bore.
Chief, let me ask a question. Would you rather continue to work on this to see if they can find a resolution, or would you rather take it in-house?
I think ultimately, we'd rather take it in-house because we would deliver 24-hour service.
Yeah, and I think, and that's the conclusion I came to, sir, also. And I was going to suggest today, and I throw this on a discussion with my colleagues, that we just ask that the CAO take the position from the ITA, put it in the fire department, have ITA turn over all the equipment, all the service contract, everything that they have on this issue to the fire department, where it really belongs, where we have 24-hour service. We have a 24-hour department in the fire department. They maintain a 24-hour maintenance center. It would make more sense to me, I think, to put a position in there, give them the authority, do it on emergency resolution so they can either transfer someone over or take somebody and hire them quickly, and just transfer the whole thing to the fire department where I think it really belongs. We've gone through a number of, probably close to a decade now of picking apart departments and putting things into ITA and building up a very big ITA department. None of you are on the budget committee, but when we had our budget hearings a few weeks ago on the mid-year financial crisis that we're dealing with, some 30-something departments came forward and said, we're dealing with a problem, we're trying to fix the shortages, we're doing everything we can. One department came here and whined, did nothing but cry that they were being picked on, they didn't have people, they're going to have to cut service, and we've all seen it in our offices, we've seen it throughout the city, and I just think maybe ITA is growing up too big and needs to be pared back a little and maybe devolve some of those services that we put in ITA back to the departments where they really should be watching them themselves. So I would suggest, and I'd like to hear from my colleagues, just a motion to take it back to the fire department, transfer one position, unfrozen immediately, the CAO, and move it to the fire department and let them transition over the next month or so that we need. Obviously, you just can't do it tomorrow.
With the accompanying salary.
With accompanying salary from ITA's budget,
Right.
and move it back to the fire department where it belongs. So with that,
Support that.
okay, well, no discussion on that then. So if the CAO could please work with the fire department, we will suggest to the council, do we need to send this back to budget then, or personnel?
This is a verbal report, so there's no formal action you can take today. When reports come in from staff, those can be referred to the appropriate committees, and you can act on it at that time.
Okay. If the CAO then could prepare a report immediately based on that recommendation, we'll get it to the Budget and Finance and Personnel Committees on an urgency,
Okay.
and we'll bring it into council either as a Rule 23, if we can so get it structured, or just as an urgency to the council.
Okay.
I would appreciate that.
That will include salary and benefits, and et cetera, come out of ITA's budget into the
Cap,
fire department.
everything.
Okay.
All right?
Okay. Good.
That'll be the order. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
On item number one, I think, and I forgot to mention, there are some people here. Chief Beck was ready to make a report. We've been talking to Chief Beck a lot about this. We're going to continue that 1 week because Chief Beck is not here today. He's attending the funeral of Captain De Leon, who passed away, and that's right now. And so he regrets that he can't be here. We'll put that off for 1 week. That will bring us back then to which items?
Item 2?
Item 2.
Item 2, Board of Police Commissioners and CAO reports relative to a Juvenile Justice Crime Prevention Act grant award in the amount of $376,631, a memorandum of understanding with the Los Angeles County Probation Department, and related actions.
Morning.
Good morning, council members. I'm Captain Gregory Allen of Office of Operations. This is Sergeant Dave Krumer, also of my staff.
Good morning, Jason Klein, Office of the CAO.
Is the commander watching you?
Yes, he is.
I had a couple of questions. We were informed a few months ago that due to budgetary constraints, and that from the mayor's office, that the Safe Passage program was probably going to be dropped, and we weren't going to see it included in their grid program and all the other programs, and yet I see it back here. So I'm very happy to hear that. The question I had is this the same Safe Passage program we'd seen in the past? Is it being changed or altered? And what overlap is there with the grid zones?
Well, no, sir. Safe Passage is incorporated into this program. This program is more directed towards truancy, curfew. It incorporates Safe Passage in that. Of course, we want to keep our students in school and safe. So that is only one component of this particular grant.
Okay, and so this is an 8th-year grant. It's a continuing program. We're continuing as we've been doing in the past without major alterations.
That is correct, sir.
Very good. Okay, any other questions? Is that very good? All right.
idea.
Thank you very much. We'll approve the CAO recommendations and move that to council. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Item 5,
Item
CAO report relative to an Animal Services Department 3-year contract for an amount not to exceed $500,000 with the Amanda Foundation for free animal spay and neuter surgeries from a mobile spay neuter clinic for low-income, elderly low-income, and disabled low-income city residents.
Good morning.
Good morning, council members. Linda Barth from the Department of Animal Services. We're very pleased to be here today. We conducted a request for proposal process, actually started last fall, and we received proposals in January and our board recommended award of a contract for a mobile clinic operator. We consider the mobile clinic to be one of the greatest assets we have in our arsenal because the clinics go into the neighborhoods that are most in need. The contractor that we're recommending for award, Terry Austin, Amanda Foundation, has really got the nation's best program. She's proven it here in Los Angeles. She's an excellent contractor to work with. We spent a lot of time parsing the details of the contract so that we both feel comfortable that we are complying with the controller's rules and that we've got a good, solid contract, and yet it works for her in those areas where often she will come upon people who are homeless. Their animal still needs to be spayed and neutered. She works with the lowest of the low income. She does an excellent outreach, and she is here today, as probably will speak or can answer any additional questions. But we're very enthusiastic, and one thing I just want to clarify, the contract is $500 per year. It's a 3-year contract. And if there's any other questions, Anthony Sanchez from my staff is here, and CAO.
Okay, thank you very much. Only question I had is dealt with how do we verify low-income status? And I know the Amanda Foundation just wanted to do the work and really didn't want to get mired down in our city paperwork, but how do we verify that they are meeting the criteria for this project? So
basically, the Amanda Foundation will follow the same protocol which our own department set up after a series of controller audits, which is that there's a number of state and federal programs, for example, supplemental security, social security income, women, infants and children program, and so forth, which are keyed to about the same income level as is in our municipal code as far as in low income. So what we are doing, what Amanda Foundation has actually been doing, is checking that paperwork. What we're going to be asking them to do in this contract is to keep a copy of that paperwork for a later audit or verification. Also, whatever paperwork they use to be able to verify residency. Yeah. And we have a provision that allows a small percentage, about 15% potentially, overall, that they would make some notes if the person is homeless or absolutely has no way of being able to document their economic status because they literally receive nothing. Mm-hmm. So we have a mechanism that we've run past the controller's office where they would make a note saying this is a homeless person, this person uses this shelter address, a homeless shelter address, and so forth. So basically we're going to ask them to do a similar process to what we have been doing now since about April and have found to be real successful.
Okay. And what about residency as far as city of LA versus the 22 cities that are on our borders?
Generally, it's utility bill is the quickest and easiest way, and then matching, say, a driver's license or some other form of ID with a utility bill. There can be cases we take, and certainly the mobile van will take, where a letter from someone saying this person lives in my back house and does handyman work. We had someone who just applied last week that way. Yeah. I live in the house, I lost my job, and I get to live in the garage in exchange for doing lighthouse work and taking care of their kids or whatever. And we get a note from the person, and that's what we do.
There's always going to be a certain amount of what-ifs. We understand that.
Right, and then we just try to work with the people. If they're trying to do what we want, which is comply with the law, we work with them as well as we can. The trick is to get people who are maybe just trying to take advantage, and they can screen out pretty quickly, and I think Amanda Foundation has also found that.
Great, thank you. Ms. Berry.
No, I've seen the work, I've seen the work of the Amanda Foundation in the southern part of my district, and it's been incredible. It's been a godsend. The amount of stray and packing dogs that I've seen decrease over the years has been astonishing just by spaying and neutering, and it's a good organization.
Yes, yeah, they're responsible for a lot of that in those areas.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Mr. Zine.
I have nothing negative to say about the Amanda Foundation. I think they do great work. My question is on the description, talks about a 3-year contract, amount not to exceed $500,000. That amount is $500,000 per year, not 3 years for $500,000.
That's correct.
Okay, we need to be more descriptive in that instead of reading the detailed plan to say it's $500,000 a year for 3 years with a 1-year extension. But what it shows here, CAO report relative to the Animal Services Department 3-year contract for an amount not to exceed $500,000. It doesn't say it's $500,000 a year. So I just want to make it on the record that it's $500,000 a year for 3 years with a year extension if it's satisfactory.
That's correct.
Is that coming out of, if it's a 3-year contract and it's $500,000 a year, and we have some tough economic times ahead, are we planning the next 2 years to say we're going to get $500,000 when we don't know if we have it?
It is true that we do not know that we have it. We have a provision in the contract which allows us, if we don't have the $500,000, to only buy essentially or authorize as many surgeries as we have funds for. Likewise, if we got a grant or some additional monies, we could extend and actually order more surgeries,
I got a
essentially.
problem for a 3-year contract at $500,000 a year, not knowing what we face next year or the year following year. My concern is the dollars. If we don't have it, we're obligated under this contract to pay for 3 years at $500,000 a year.
We're not obligated to pay the $500,000. There's a clause in the contract which indicates if the money is not dedicated to us.
$500,000 a year, a maximum of $500,000 a year. So, but I'm just saying, next year, if we're in worse shape than we are this year, and if the third year we're in worse shape than next year,
Then we would notify the contractor how much funds is available. In addition to the general fund allotment that goes into the fund that pays for these surgeries, though, there's also a surcharge of $7 on every dog license, altered dog license, and $2 on every unaltered dog license, which goes into the same fund, which funds public programs. That's our $70 free certificate for very low-income families, and also the mobile program, which goes to the same families. And as I mentioned, what we find is that the mobile is a very successful way of reaching the neighborhoods who need the services.
I'm not disputing that. I'm just talking about the dollars, and are we going to be able to pay the next 2 years? That's all I'm concerned about.
And what I'm
Not
trying
the value of the program, the dollars to pay the program.
Yes, sir. And what I'm trying to explain is that if we sell 100,000 dog licenses, which generally speaking we sell at least 100,000 at the $7 surcharge, that brings enough funds into that account to help supplement, even if the general fund, for example, wasn't able to contribute anything. We would be making money from the dog license surcharge and could allocate the majority of that then to keep the spay-neuter van going, since it is our #1 successful method.
And do we have other providers for this program, or is Amanda the only one?
At this time, Amanda is the only one. We had 2 bidders. We are looking potentially to expand and see if there's 2 other vans operating in the area. We might try to work with them in the future, but at this time it would just be Amanda.
Again, I want to emphasize, I have no problem with the program. I support the program. I just want to make sure that we obligate ourselves and they get themselves prepared, and then we pull the rug out. I don't want to see that done.
You know, and our intention, as I said, because we do have the money from the surcharge.
Okay.
Mr. Prentice.
Thank you. So the bottom line is, as I read, it says a maximum of $500,000 per year. So is there somebody here from the Amanda Foundation? Can you come forward, please?
Terry Austin, President for the Amanda Foundation.
Thank you, Terry. Do you understand the way the contract reads? Do you understand that, for example, next year, as Mr. Zine said, if we're in bad shape, say we want to keep hiring the number of cops and we've got to cut back on everything else, and we can only, say, do $150,000 or what have you, you understand that you don't have any recourse to the city, that you can't sue the city. I mean, you could if you want to, you'd lose. But the bottom line is, you know, you understand that your contract says up to $500,000.
Yeah, I am aware of that, and we feel we have a good relationship with the department, and if that looks like it's going to come down the pike, I'm sure they'll give us adequate warning.
Now, when it comes to your clinic, is it a clinic that requires some on-site services where you arrive at, or is it something that it's self-contained?
We're completely self-contained. We can set up anywhere where we have all power, water, everything that we need to run the clinic. We can go anywhere. We don't need any services from the city. We're completely self-contained.
So are you functioning in any way right now that you have any deficiencies that you have yet to fulfill in order to do your job right?
No, we have a state-of-the-art, brand-new mobile clinic that's barely a year old, and it's the most efficient unit in the entire country. And our numbers and our statistics are the very best in the entire country. There's no other mobile program that is doing the amount of large breed aggressive dogs that we do. There's no other program that's doing pregnant cryptorchid and heat animals. And there's no other program that's going into the areas that are as economically depressed as our mobile is. So we're up, we're running. As a matter of fact, we regularly on a weekly basis hear from other programs such as New York and Chicago asking us how they can improve their program by doing some of the protocol that we do.
So how is it that you roll into a community and you start spaying and neutering? You show up and you get a dog whistle and then you just blow it and they come? Or do you reach out to the community ahead of time? Do you do it just by flyers? Do you try to target particular households and or communities that are probably in the highest need? And with all due respect, I mean the dictionary version of the word ignorant. People who are ignorant about what it is to spay and neuter their animals.
Well, with it, like every social problem that we have, the base problem is education and people not knowing. And so what we do, the way we target the neighborhoods is we work with the Department of Animal Services to find out what zip codes the majority of animals that are being picked up off the streets, per se, are coming, because that's, if animals are on the street, they're a public safety problem and they're a danger to children and other animals. And so we target the areas where the animals are coming off the street, and then we target the areas by speaking to council deputies that are, by their definition, they're lowest income areas. And we go into those areas and we work with churches and community centers and food banks and WIC offices and the places that we know that people who are in need are being serviced already, because these people have, the people working in those areas already know who the lowest income are. And then we do a lot with community leaders. There are animal activists and rescuers in different areas that will say this park has a bad problem and this alley we see animals in. So we try to use all the resources that are already in those communities to identify the problems, and then we find an area that is easy to find for the people living in that area, and we pass out flyers, and a lot of it is word of mouth. We do special events to draw people in. They see something going on. We've been doing a lot of 100-dog day promotions in South Central and in Van Nuys, where we promote for a special weekend that we'll do 100 animals in one day. And we also offer microchips and vaccines and everything. So people see this happening in their neighborhood. Their neighbors come home with their dog or cat that's been spayed or neutered. A lot of it is word of mouth. But we're busy. It's working because we're getting thousands of calls a week, and we are busy every single day doing an average of 30 to 35 surgeries. So in answer to your question, that's how we target the areas, and we know that we're successful because we're getting those people in. And we also work with the department monitoring from year to year about how many animals are coming into the shelter. And up until this year, which the economics of the year are probably going to have an impact, we've been keeping the lid on and marching backwards in some neighborhoods the numbers of animals coming in off the streets. So as Councilman Perry was saying, you can see the difference on the streets.
Actually, let me just add, in the South LA area, even with the economic troubles that we had last year, South LA intakes remained completely flat. So if you couple what Terry is saying with the fact that we had the economic problems caused a 20% increase at all of our other locations, South LA remained flat, which really means it was marching backwards.
And we hit South LA a lot.
So Terry, you say on your average day, you're doing about 35 spay and neuters a day?
30, 35, yeah.
30, 35. Mm-hmm. So how in the world do you get 100 done in one day? You get like Edward Scissorhands to show up and he just kind of goes to town, or what?
What we do on those days.
No, I look, I'm a little concerned. Maybe at 100 a day, they just kind of, you know.
Well, normally, in a normal day, we have one veterinarian and 3 technicians. On our 100-dog days, we have 3 veterinarians and 15 technicians. And we do one of 2 things. Right now, the East Valley Spay-Neuter Clinic is not utilized, so we've been going in and with the permission of the department and working in concert with them, we've been able to make use of that empty clinic right now. So in that case, we had 2 doctors. There's 2 operating rooms in the clinic, so we've had 2 doctors working in the clinic and 1 working in our mobile. So we were able to do 100 animals in the same length of time that we do the usual 35. And in other cases, like at 101st in Maine, there's a church that we use, Our Lady of Sorrows, and they have a community center. And what we do in that case, we go in like a MASH unit and we set up 60 extra cages outside, because our mobile clinic can handle 50. So between setting up cages in the community center and setting up cages on our mobile clinic, in that case, I have 2 high-volume vets who work one after another. And that day goes longer, but we get the 100 animals done.
So the bottom line is, even though you go up in quantity on certain big days where you advertise it more, you kind of hit a scene pretty hard, the quality remains the same.
Absolutely.
So, like you said, to do 30 to 35, you have 1 surgeon, and then to do 100 or so, you prepare and you have arrived that day 3.
Right. And we do 15 technicians. And so I am very proud to say and happy to show anyone our program, because the care that the animals get is as good, if not better, than the most expensive vet hospital that you go to in the city of Los Angeles. The quality of the drugs, the protocol, the way they're treated, and the care is excellent. And I say that on behalf of my team.
Ms. Barth, would you concur with everything that she just said?
Absolutely. I know our chief vet has visited her operation several times and really admires the way she's able to get the animals through. And I know I've been there, and our interim general manager has been at events. The customer service is excellent as well. It's really an asset. Los Angeles is very lucky to have an operation like this helping us out.
Yeah, they've done some work in my district, and they've done that 100 a day, and I think one day that you did 130.
We did 110. We usually book a few extra just in case people, for one reason or another, something happens and they can't make it to the appointment, but we don't turn away people. Usually what we do is we'll overbook a little bit by the day, and then, as I said, people in the community see what's going on there, and they walk by, and we sign them up, and we usually come to the same location the next day. So in that weekend, we usually do 130 to 40 surgeries in that one community. And the word of mouth of that 140 surgeries really spreads, and then people call, and then the next week in that same neighborhood we'll get even more calls than we normally do. But we're so grateful for that council recognizes the importance of the program, because we're able to go into neighborhoods and talk one-on-one with people and educate them about their animals. And when they know that the gestation period of a dog is only 60 days, so if their dog got out and ran around, they need to get it spayed or neutered before they end up with puppies. When we can tell them about the vaccines preventing disease, it's just, they don't get that access. There's not, in a lot of low-income areas, there aren't even vets. There's not a single vet in the whole area of Watts that has the address Watts, California. So the opportunity to go in and educate is a blessing, and we're really glad that you understand the importance of the program.
Well, thank you. One last question to the department. I think this is relevant to this item. If you were to say what your top 3 priorities are as far as effectiveness in getting to a no-kill city, we've had the mayor say it, we've had many of us politicians say we want to be a no-kill city, but we're kidding ourselves and we're lying to the public unless we actually put into action certain actions that will get us there. Where is spay and neutering on that list? Is it number 1, number 2, number 3? Where is it? Or is it number 10?
It's definitely not number 10. It's probably number 1. Also in that same top 3 are adoption programs, and dog licensing too is a key, because it allows us to communicate with our...
Well, I think spay and neutering still remains number 1, because on adoptions, they're spay or neutered. You get what I'm saying? We're not adopting out animals that are not spay or neutered. So no matter what, any dog we come in contact with, if it's going to go back out on the street, it's going to be spay or neutered, right?
That's right.
And then what is the multiplier effect? I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I just need to, since the public has the right to listen to these things, I think the public needs to understand how critical this is. When it comes to what's the multiplier effect if a pair of dogs or cats are not spayed or neutered and they're left out to their own devices? About how many do they have?
If you took, the number over 7 years for a dog or cat to reproduce is in the neighborhood of over 100,000. When you multiply out all the litters that...
Their lineage, like if you had a family tree from that,
But if you took, last year we did approximately 8,000 surgeries. If you took half that number of 4,000 and you figured that even if the 4,000 of those animals even had 1 litter, you're talking 30,000 extra animals that were not produced because of the program. And the chances are that the animals that we spayed and neutered in these very low-income areas would have had several litters, and their progeny would have had several litters. So you're really making a huge impact. And that's why we're seeing the difference of packs of animals in the alley.
So, Ms. Barth, now that Ed Boakes is not here anymore, what's the real number of euthanizations that we're clipping at this year?
We were up to about 20,000 last year, with an increase in intake of over 60,000 dogs and cats. We're looking this year it seems to be sliding back down. We're getting better control and less intake, so maybe 17 or 18,000.
Okay, so we're hoping by the end of the year we're still below 20,000?
Yes.
And where were we about 5 years ago?
Oh.
Weren't we at 35,000-ish or
yes,
something like that?
35, 40,000. Yes.
Okay. All right.
Because of spay and neuter. That's what makes the difference.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you very much. And did you have anything further to add? Because you had a card in, so.
No, that's everything. And again, just my gratitude, because the council has been, and the mayor and the council have been so supportive. We're the only city in the entire United States where the city council realizes the importance of a program like this and how fiscally responsible it is, because it's so much more expensive. It's 3 times as expensive to house an animal feed it, have to kill it and dispose of it, than it is to spay or neuter it and keep it from reproducing. So thank you.
That's great.
What's the cost differential, since you mentioned that?
Well, it's at about $275 for the average dog that we impound. That's imagining it doesn't get adopted.
And it's
her spay
$80.
neuter is $80, so she's just
And-
about on the money.
So if we took in an animal and unfortunately had to be euthanized at the end of its
It would be
stay-
even more than the 275. It'd be about almost 300.
No, but euthanization, it's in and of itself is over $100, isn't it?
If we take it and we've held it the usual time period, and instead of adopting it, then we go ahead and euthanize it, then we just add to that number the additional cost of euthanizing. If we just want to look at a number just to bring a dog straight in and euthanize it, it's higher, because it also factors in having to do the paperwork and so on. So it's about
either way,
300.
spay and neutering of one animal is cheaper no matter how you
It's
slice it.
even cheaper than just bringing it in and euthanizing it.
When
It's better for the community.
When Councilman Zion was talking about, what happens next, if we were to cut back on this program, the amount of money that you would have to add to the Department of Animal Services budget to pay for the housing and capture and treatment of all the extra animals that would come in would far exceed what this contract is.
And it would result in a huge more euthanasia, because there wouldn't be enough holding capacity for the other animals.
Okay, thank you. One further comment we have from Phyllis Doherty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Phyllis Doherty, Animals. Just I'll make this very brief, because I've been working with Amanda Foundation for a very, very long time, and everything she said is true. You don't know that one aspect of what Animal Services or what Animal Issues Movement does is we have a subsidiary, if you want to call it, called Quick Spay, and we provide training to veterinarians all over the world. DVDs on the best methods of spay and neuter, Dr. Mackey, and doing clinics out on the large-scale Indian reservations, things like that. In Mexico, we have one of our subsidiaries actually goes down into Mexico almost every weekend, and they do the same kind of volume that Terry does, not quite as well, but they do it as well as they can down there. So we are constantly our fingers on the pulse of what's happening all over the nation, and she's absolutely right. She does by far exceed anything that anyone else is doing. As a matter of fact, most of the mobile plans fail. So, people don't realize that you're talking about the reproduction, Councilman Cardenas, that a cat, just to give you an example that you don't talk about very often, a cat can get pregnant within 2 weeks after it gives birth. So that's how fast they can repeat. So by the time one litter is weaned, another litter is already being born. And this is a repetitive. Nothing stops that unless we stop it with spay and neuter. And just very brief, since I have a little time on the homeless aspect, I'll tell you something wonderful. For instance, I'm a homeless sponsor. The homeless people in my area, I allow them to license to my address. I take care of their animals in that anything they need, they come to me and I get them to a vet, or I make sure that they do. With Terry, we can arrange to get them spayed or neutered. I have one in Echo Park right now, just saw her yesterday, took her food, toys for the animal. He's out on a little leash, out on the street. They take wonderful care of him, but if anything happens, they get thrown in jail, they have to go to the hospital, things like that. The police automatically bring the animal to my place. I have a yard, they can put it in, lock it, the animal's safe, has a doghouse, everything in there, till I get home. I keep it until they're released and are back, and if they die, I take the animal in.
Thank you,
So
Phyllis.
you're all for it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, good, thank you. With that, if no opposition, we'll move that along with the CEO recommendations. And that brings us 6, 7, and 8. That's what's left.
Items 6, 7, and 8 are
Council
communication.
members, I'm so terribly sorry. Could you do it forthwith, please?
Forthwith.
We'd really appreciate it. We can get it signed and go. Yes, the money's there. Thank you.
Items 6, 7, and 8, CAO reports, Communication from City Controller and CAO relative to the SB 165 report for Prop Q, citywide public safety bond program for fiscal years 2005-06, 06-07, and 07-08.
And we have the report in front of us, so we'll save the time. I just have some questions. I didn't notice the police administration building. Is that not?
Actually, Ramon Soto with the CAO's office here. The police administration is not a Prop Q project, even though it was reported in the LA Times that it was. It's actually funded wholly by MICLA, about $437 million.
Okay, because, and the chief said I think the chief said the other day, Prop Q.
Right.
And there was money left, and I'm going, wait a minute, that doesn't, okay,
That's
so I just wanted to clarify that.
You didn't put all that
Yeah,
together.
yeah, okay, I wanted to clarify. that. So I'm good with everything that's here then. I just want to make sure we weren't doing different information here then. Does anybody have any questions on this then?
No question.
No questions. All right, well, thank you very much. That concludes our agenda for the day. Anyone wishing to speak to the committee on a non-agenda item, come forward. Seeing none, committee's adjourned.
Mr. Chairman. Very nice, Mr.
Chairman.
I was confused when
No, I knew he was wrong. I mean, he actually.
It's almost the shape, I didn't get the